Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. Hey guys, we're back. And again, I promised you I would have this rock star back. And here she is for the second week in a row. I'm joined by Dallas Walker-Milan, who is my favorite paramedic firefighter from Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services. So last week we talked about Dallas's journey, how she got into this, and all the badass things that she's doing down in Lethbridge. Today, we are breaking down more of the recruiting process. So becoming a paramedic firefighter with Lethbridge. And we're specifically breaking down that fitness test, which is fucking insane. I have looked over the standards. It looks absolutely grueling. I know it is one of the toughest ones. 6 different stations that Dallas is going to break down and give you a bunch of different tips and tricks on, which I'm super pumped about. And then you've got some really great kind of ways to train for it, which I'm very pumped about for our listeners. So first of all, welcome back. Good to see you again. How are you doing?
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to be back. I'm doing really good, really busy, but that's the way I like life. So
okay, so let's jump into it because there's lots to discuss. So 6 different stations. I'm so excited to hear you just describe them all. Cause again, I've seen I have the PDF for the description of them, but from coming from somebody that's been through them, physically knows what it's like. It sounds fucking exhausting. It sounds super fucking difficult. So break it down for me. So we've got 6 different obstacles. What are we starting with? How are we getting into it? And what are we ending off with?
Yeah. So the way that we set it up, we try and just keep it to a day. And it's a very hard day, but that way, if people are traveling down, then they don't have to be concerned about where they're going to stay or anything like that. You can just kind of drive down, get it done. So you apply, you throw in your resume, everything. They'll send you an email, I guess it's changed now, to be completely honest, but back before, U of A changed, so now you can actually go and you can go do the test anytime, and that's on you to go do. It used to be that we had to invite you to come do the test because we would have to block off time, but now that's changed. So you have to have your U of A physical test passed, and you have to have your little report card attached to your resume. If you don't, sometimes that's okay, but you have to have it done by the time that you get a job offer. Okay. So that'll be, you might have a couple months between when you apply to when you actually have to have it done. So I always say, just go get it done and send in your pass with your resume, and then you don't have to worry about it. But
yeah.
So you'll do that. And then you will get invited down. We have interviews. It's about an hour and a half of interview. And then we will have testing. So the testing will involve a fire aptitude test, a written medical test, and a psych test. So they ask you a bunch of psychology questions that I don't know the first thing about, but you just answer the first thing that comes to mind and you just roll with it.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, you'll be taken out of the room and you'll go to a different room to do a medical scenario. And so they'll have a scenario ready for you. It's just a tabletop. A lot of we do them all in school over and over and over again. So you're generally very good at them, but you have to do the appropriate treatments at the appropriate times, verbalize everything that you need to do, and you're just trying to get as many points as you can throughout that scenario. So once you're done that scenario, you kind of get back into the written exams and you finish those off. So it turns into a very long day, but then once you're done, you're done. We go back, we grade everything, we look at the interview scores, we create like our short list, and then your final thing is a psych evaluation from a psychologist. So we bring them in, we bring you in, have your little chat, you go over any like potential like red flags that came from that test or any concerns that the psychologist might have. You can clarify things, and then after that is when job offers go through. So then you're sent your job offer. You won't get your job offer unless you get that physical done though. So you got to get it done. That's the biggest hang up of it all.
Yeah. And that's what we're seeing too in law enforcement. Like again, with Blue Line, that it's very similar. Most agencies want you to have your package ready to go. So when you're applying, they want you to have your driver's abstract, your first aid and CPR, your like any, your like educational certificates, your PAIR or COPAT, which is the physical requirements for either, sheriffs or corrections or kind of peace officer roles. They want to have it all in hand when you hand it in. Because there's lots of open postings, they've started to let people apply without that physical requirement. And it's a disaster. It's a disaster because this person works their way through the entire process. They do the written test, they do the interviews, they do the psych, they do the background check, they do all of this stuff, and they don't get their fucking shit together to do their fitness until literally they're like, yeah, the job is yours. Training starts in 2 weeks. We need that fitness test from you. And they come to run the fitness test and they are like not anywhere close, like not even like we're talking 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 months out on how fit they need to be to pass this test. And like, I've started kind of getting a little angry with HR about it because I'm just like, you know what? Like, it's really shitty business. Like, how much resources and energy did you waste on this person doing the background check, getting them through the psych, getting like, plus you've wasted this person's time because in their head, they're moving. Like, they're like, yep, this job is mine. I'm getting it. I'm in. When like the first thing that you should have had to have done is pass the physical. If you can't pass the physical, you can't do any of the other fucking things. So why are we not making them pass the physical first? So I totally agree with that. And again, people highly underestimate how challenging the physical requirements are.
For Lethbridge anyways, and there's 7 other departments in Alberta that are using the U of A FireFit test. So that's a great one to start training for. I think it's the hardest one. You can go online onto U of A website and just search their fire test. And they have a breakdown of like everything about it. There's no secrets about it whatsoever. So it's out there. You can always call them. You can ask questions, or you can call like our recruiters or probably any other department. But the very first thing you do, you go in, you get fitted for your gear. So you have to remember that you have coveralls on, and then you have all your bunker gear on. So you've got your bunker pants, you've got your bunker jacket, you've got a helmet, and you've got your tank on your back. So the only thing that you don't have is your mask. So the first thing you're doing is, for the treadmill, so the first thing you do is the treadmill, and you don't need boots for that.
Okay.
Because that's actually like quite a long time to be wearing those boots, and blisters happen because those boots are U of A's boots. They're not yours.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily fit the greatest. So I'm super thankful that they let you use runners, because that could turn into a whole different kind of test with that pain.
Yes.
So you're going to hop on the treadmill. You are going to start at a like 0% incline. You're at 3.5 miles per hour. You have a 5-minute warm up. That goes up. So you go from 0 to 8% incline in that 5 minutes. Slowly, they just bump you up. After that, you need to stay on that treadmill for the remainder of the time. So you have a total of 13 minutes. That's considered a pass on your treadmill. So you have your 5-minute warm up, and then you've got whatever that 8 minutes. Yeah, that 8 minutes of 10% at 3.5 miles per hour on the treadmill. Once you've reached that, you have a choice. So you can continue on, and I believe a little faster, at least it felt a little faster when I did it, but I could be just completely wrong, to be honest. And then they will cut you off at 15 minutes. So you can just go for an extra 2 minutes. And then after that, you have to do a 5-minute cool down. So you have to stay on that treadmill for another 5 minutes. So total, you need to be able to do 20 minutes on the treadmill. And I always say do 20 minutes of 10% at 4 miles per hour. Then that should make it easier if you go do your test. So that's my big thing. I find the treadmill gets, I would say, probably 70% of people. That treadmill creeps up on you. You don't realize how hot you're going to get. It feels way faster for a lot of people. And you're trying not to stumble. You can't touch the sides or the front of the treadmill. So you got to keep your arms going. Now, I did it during COVID, so it was a little bit different. But now they have the VO2 max.
Mask.
Face mask on. Yeah. So that changes things too.
Awful.
So they're measuring your VO2 max as well. So I trained, funny enough, I trained with like one of those altitude masks just to put something on my face and kind of constrict the air movement. And I found that it helped. Like I didn't do it during COVID, but I find that when I do a VO2 max test, like I do with Life Saving, it helps to already have that there, and it doesn't feel so constricting. So
I've seen people do it with like a scuba mask too, like with the snorkel, which is highly entertaining when you're at the gym and you look over and somebody's got a fucking snorkel. But I know what they're training for, right? Like I'm like, I gotta see you. I know what you're going for. But like I've seen it because same thing. It limits where you can breathe. It gets hot. It gets claustrophobic on your face when you're starting to breathe heavily and you can't breathe like you normally would breathe. Like again, we talk about swimming when you can't fucking lift your head out of the water and breathe like you're normally breathing, right? It gets stressful. The gear gets fucking hot really fast. The treadmill, and again, when you're saying like 3.5 miles an hour, like I am 5 feet. So like that's like a trot. Like it's not a walk for me. Like it's a pretty, like it's a jog. Like so jog in full gear with a snorkel on your face and at a freaking steep incline and see how you go, right? Like it is that for sure why I had to do VO2 max for when I was trying out for Canada for rugby, and it was awful. We were on a treadmill inside like a little like alcove, and so it was like the cement wall was behind us, and so so you're going and you're dying and you feel like you're going to die, but you don't want to go off the back of the treadmill because what's behind you, the concrete wall. So like a little bit of extra motivation, but I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. And then you come off and you take that VO2 mask off and it's just like slobber and like it's so fucking gross. Like as the VO2 max people, I always feel so bad for them. Like as you hand them the mask and you're like, here you go.
Right? Yeah. And they just take it like it's nothing. They're like, hey, no problem. Yeah. And then for like an added little fun bit, I always call it, because they give you a like scale. And it's like the whole happy face scale, almost like your pain scale. And so it's like 0, you're like not really exerting any energy. And then like 10 is like you're about to fall off this thing and crash and burn. And so every so often, I can't remember how many minutes, but it felt like it was only like every 2 minutes, probably was more, but they'd stand there and they'd look at you and they'd like raise their hand along the scale and you'd put your thumb up wherever you were. Well, if I'm being honest, then now I'm telling myself that I'm working as hard as I am, but also playing that mental game. So like, I think they hated me because like they'd get to 4 and I'd be like, yeah, that's it. But meanwhile, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I am like bright red. Like we are clearly working more than a 4. But I'm going to tell you that I'm working a 4 so that I can tell myself that I'm only working a 4 and that this is like easy breezy walk in the park right now. Like
I like that there was a mirror so you can see yourself fucking. I purposely, when I have to do cardio, I pick the machines that are nowhere near fucking mirrors. I don't need
Right?
to see myself fucking dying doing cardio. Thank you very
Oh,
much. I'm fine. I don't need to look at myself in the mirror as I die. Thank you.
right? Yeah, yeah. But they place you like right in front of this mirror, and like there's no like clock or any dials on front of the treadmill, right? Because it's all programmed by them. They stand beside it and they press the buttons. And so you look forward, and you're looking at yourself in this mirror, and then you look up to the right and there's a clock. and you obviously take note of when you started, like so now you're like, oh boy, I know how long I've been on here for. I'm bright red. Now she's asking me this pain scale, and all I can think about is just one step in front of the other here.
Yes.
Come on. So
Yeah.
there's a lot to that treadmill test that like people don't quite understand. That it's
Yes.
not just like jump on the treadmill, put your head
Yes.
down, and grind it out. Like,
Yes. Yes. That's
there's way more to it.
that is huge. I like again, like you're saying, the mental side of things is like it is literally the make or break for a lot of people, the mental side of things, because if you can look at that clock and think, holy fuck, I've only gone for 2 minutes and I have 18 more minutes to go, I'm gonna like, and if that already within 2 minutes in the warm up, you're like, I'm at the fucking 10 and I'm dying, that next 18 minutes is going to be awful. It's going to be awful,
Yeah.
right? But if you can, like you said, if you can convince yourself that even though you look like you're going to die, you're at a 4, then that will take you a long way. It will take you a long way. And I think probably a lot of your sport kind of built up that mental resiliency and that mental strength for you,
Mhm.
right? Of like,
Yeah.
I can't stop swimming because then I'm going to fucking drown with this dummy. And so I need to
Right?
keep going, whether I want to or not, whether this is hard or not, I better keep fucking going. So yeah,
Yeah.
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 So then after the treadmill, what else is there?
So then they bring you downstairs. You have an hour break. So
Okay.
yeah, so you figure out how you need to recover in that hour, but you need to recover. And then you get all geared up again and you go do the floor exercises. So the guy's gonna bring you over and they're gonna do like a warm up. So you'll go through each station. I'll tell you what they are in a minute, but you'll go through each station half speed just so you get an idea of what it is and kind of figure out how you need to hold things. And then after that, you're doing it for real. So you're going to start with the equipment carry and the vehicle extrication. You are going to lift and carry a small, like 44-pound tool and an 80-pound tool. So considerably heavy, depending. You're going to carry it 50 feet, and then you're going to pick up the smaller ones. You're only picking up the like 44-pound tool, and you're putting it at 3 different places on the wall, each for 30 seconds. And so you have to hold the tool, the end of the tool, against a little steel circle, and you can't hold it with your body. You have to hold it with your arms away from your body. So you can't use your legs or anything, which makes it a little bit more difficult. So you're going to do that, hold it at 3 different sets, and then you're going to carry it back. And you have to do that within 225 seconds or less. So there needs to be a little bit of speed to that, but also realize that that's your first one. So don't go like balls to the walls on it, because you're not going to make it through the rest if you do.
Yeah.
So then you have 3 minutes in between each of these, where it's considered active rest. So you can't leave the testing area. You can't remove any of your PPE. You can't even hang on to like the straps of your BA, of your tank. As soon as you do that, it's considered a fail. So you got to be up. You have to be able to like keep walking around in between. So you have your 3 minutes, and then you're going to go do a charged hose advance. So there's going to be 3 lengths of 44 mil hose. It's charged, so it's a lot heavier, obviously. You're going to basically grab that hose, you're going to swing it over your shoulder, and you're going to put your head down, and you're going to walk it to the 100-foot point. And both feet have to cross. Now you have to walk, you can't run, but you can walk decently quick. And you have to be able to do that in 27 seconds or less. So as soon as you you can make it halfway usually, and it's like pretty easy, and then it kind of starts pulling back on you. And that's where people start to struggle, because then they stand up and the hose pulls them back. So you got to kind of lean into it and just try and keep trucking. Don't let it stop, because once you stop your momentum, that's it.
You're never getting it going again.
Yeah. Like I've tried.
Okay.
You're not. So yeah, that's it. That's it for that one. Then you have your 3 minutes again. Walk around, pace, control your breathing.
Sorry, and during the active rest, are you allowed to take your, like, you don't have a respirator on, you just have your mask on, but you still have like the whole space to breathe through?
Yeah. So
Okay.
you no longer have a mask on,
Okay.
but you have your tank on.
Yeah.
And this time you have boots. So
Okay.
you have to, so they'll give you boots. Make sure they fit, wear extra socks. Because blisters are a thing.
Totally.
But yeah, you have to keep like everything on. You can't even take your gloves off.
Okay.
So yeah, it gets intense.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, wanted to pop on here before we got into this next episode and let you know about a couple new rad ideas that we have for the podcast. So the first one is we have a survey up, and I would love to know what you guys think about the show. I'd love your feedback. I'd love your ideas for the next season, and I'd just love to know what you like and what you dislike about the podcast. And I'm going to sweeten the deal with a $50 gift card randomly drawn from everybody that completes the survey. The survey is going to be in the show notes of all of our shows, so no matter what time you start listening to the podcast at, you'll get a chance to win that gift certificate. The second thing that we're bringing in now is the ability for you guys to leave us a voicemail. You guys can actually call into the show, leave us a voicemail, let us know what you think about the show. If you have a funny story you'd like to share from your time as a first responder, I would love those and showcase those on the show as well. So make sure you guys check out that voicemail feature. It's going to be in the show notes, and check out the survey. Make sure that you get that chance to win that gift certificate. That mental resiliency piece, right? That like time to grind it out, time to grind it out. Yeah.
Yeah. It almost, like, to be honest, sometimes I wonder if like the test would be quote unquote easier if you didn't have your 3 minutes in between.
So you don't get
right?
so you're not sitting there thinking about how fucking hard it is and the fact that there's still 2 more obstacles. And oh my God, I shit the bed on that last one, and I should have. Yes, totally. 100%.
Yeah. Right. If you just like go, you do your hose pull. Okay. Now we're going to go on to the next one. Okay. Now we're going to go to the next one. It just turns into like just an endurance. Like, let's just see how long you can grind this out for.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, okay, now I'm pacing for 3 minutes, and man, I can really feel that lactic acid, and holy smokes, I hope I can make it through this, and feeling faint or whatever you're starting to feel. That's when that comes to mind.
Yes.
It's not while you're moving.
No, I'm with you. I'm the same type. I'm like, let's just get all the shit over and done with. Can we just do it all straight in one go? I don't want any breaks, because if I get a break, exactly that, my mind's like, I don't actually want to start again. I would like to not do the next part. I'm done now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I can feel the burn. We're done.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So after that fun little 27 seconds, you go to a weighted sled pull. And so the sled is connected to a rope, obviously. And so you've got to pull the sled 50 feet. And then it's hard to describe, but you've got a rope on either side of the sled, so that when you pull the sled, you're 50 feet and it pulls to you. Now you just walk 50 feet and pick up the rope and you pull it again back to you, and then you like go back. So you do that 4 times. So it works out to like 200 feet.
Okay.
Of like Yeah. Pull it one way, walk back, pull it another way, walk back, pull it, and then walk back and pull it. Your feet have to be stationary the entire time. So you can't be like walking with the rope. So you have to be using your legs to stabilize and then using your arms to just pull that sled.
Mm-hmm. And how much does a sled weigh?
That is a beautiful question. They don't put a weight on here.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have heard from a couple people. Now, I've done this test twice. Both times I feel like the weight was the same.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how much it was. It is decently heavy.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I have heard from other people who have done it more than I have that they like that it changes.
Okay.
That it gets heavier and not. I believe that it's because of where they do it. They account for the friction of the floor.
Yeah, what's underneath. Yeah, how it's sliding across the, if it's gym floor versus a turf floor versus yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's hard. I would say that's like the hardest one to train for. Mm-hmm. My biggest thing is like pile on the weight and just go for it. Yeah. Like as heavy as you can do it, do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, and what's the worst thing that you train for it being too heavy? Mm-hmm. Like that's not a problem. The problem is that you're training for it too light and you get there and it's heavier.
Yeah.
So that's what I always say. You have to be able to do all this in 110 seconds or less.
Okay.
So you do have to be moving. Again, you're not allowed to run. So your walking back has to be a very quick walk with purpose, but no running.
Love it. A walk with purpose. You are a mall walker on that way back.
Seriously though, like we're not dilly dallying here. Like chop, get back to that rope and just start pulling.
Yeah. Holy. Well, because I mean, 50 feet is pretty far. Like, I mean, it is pretty far. And then to walk it and then to do that 4 times, like, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And you're in all your gear and you have a pack on, so you're way heavier. You don't have the same range of motion. You, in general, everybody walks a little differently in their bunker gear, no matter how good it fits. Like I have some of the most comfortable bunker gear I've ever had, and I still walk different because it's just bigger.
Like you're wearing a snowsuit. Like
exactly. Yeah. So you do that. You get your 3 minutes of wander around and think about everything that you've already done. And then you've got your forcible entry simulation. So this is the one, like I would say as a female, this is the one that gets females. Okay. So it's a prop and you have a target and you basically have to hit this target hard enough until like a light goes or it makes a noise. So it just goes to a certain point before it indicates that you've gone far enough, like you've used enough force on this prop. So you get a 10-pound sledgehammer. You get all set up kind of in an awkward position, to be completely honest, but you get all set up and you have 19 seconds to make this buzzer go off. So if you are not striking like as hard as you can, if you're not using your entire body and you're not aiming properly, then it's going to be next to impossible to get that buzzer to go because you have to hit it like smack dab in the middle and then get the force to go continue through, right? Rather than like bouncing off like a lot of people do. A lot of people hit it, it'll just bounce off and you just keep hitting, where you need to just go completely through it and get every single little bit of force that we can generate into that prop. So I find like from past history, that's the one that has been the killer for most females. The guys, I know guys who have hit it once and the buzzer went off. Like, and they're like, oh, that's cool.
You're like, and fuck you.
Right? Yeah. Like, I think I'm pretty strong and I think I did mine in like 15 or 16 seconds. Like it still took me quite a bit.
Well, and like, and again, we go back to the mental, you know, the time is ticking down. So now you're panicking and you're knowing that you're getting close to the end and you're like, holy fuck, I gotta fucking make this stupid fucking light go off. Like that stress, totally. Yep. And then your technique isn't as good because you know you're under pressure and you're panicking because of the time and you're trying to go quicker because you're like, if I hit it more times, then maybe I'll have a better chance of it going off, but then you're not getting that power. I can totally see where this would derail a lot of people for sure. Like, and just every single time it doesn't light up, you're like, motherfucker.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And honestly, I think that it's the hardest one to train for too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that like if you don't have a prop like that, then it's hard to make it realistic. I used a tractor tire and a heavier sledgehammer.
Yep.
And I would honestly, I do like 20 seconds on, 20 seconds off. And I do that for 5 minutes. And I would just force myself that as I got tired, I would just keep that good technique. I would just keep hitting it, making sure it's not bouncing off. Super easy to bounce it off a tire. That's what they're for, but I'm trying not to allow it to bounce off. So
is it an overhead strike or is it a side? Like
it's a side, but it's not like a baseball swing. So like you swing it like a baseball, but you're not allowed to do that. So you're going to have tape on the bottom of the handle, and then you're going to have tape closer to closer to the mallet part of of the what am I trying to say? Of the sledgehammer. And you essentially are lined up literally right beside the target. So your foot is in line with the target, like on the side of it, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
And then you're striking from your core. So you have like your whole core is moving rather than just your arms.
Yes.
You keep everything nice and tight and smash it with your core.
Yeah.
So there's no extra force that you can generate like you would like a baseball swing or an overhead. So it is like generally at waist height. Obviously, like if you're shorter, you have to swing a little higher. If you're taller, you have to swing a little lower, but it's typically at waist-ish height for you.
Yeah.
And you can always bend your knees if you need to, make it a little bit easier to like align with as far as midline goes. But yeah, I think that one's the one that takes the most practice. Honestly, it's not a physically like demanding one by any means, but if you don't have the proper technique and you don't actually know how to do it, it's way harder.
Yeah, for sure. I could totally see that because it's like you said, it's an unnatural motion. It's not what you would normally think of for chopping at something, cutting at like axing, anything like that. Yeah, totally. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. So looks easy. That's the one that sneaks up on everybody, it seems like. Yeah, so that's your forcible entry. You'll have your 3 minutes to just like do your laps and get a hold of yourself. And then you are moving on to your victim rescue. So what that entails, they're very specific in this. You're going to have a 183-pound mannequin. It's going to have a harness on it, which is kind of your saving grace here. So there's going to be 3 pylons. From one pylon to the farthest pylon is 15 meters. It's kind of designed in a serpentine, so that you kind of have to go in S. So you're going to pick up the mannequin. You're going to be walking backwards with him, and you're going to go around the pylons, and then you're going to, at the end, you're going to do one big loop, and you're going to go back to your starting point. You have to be straight up when you bring your mannequin back to the starting point. And if any part of you or the mannequin hits the pylons, it is an automatic fail. So don't hit the pylons. Do a nice wide serpentine. Look over your shoulders. They are going to help you. Like they'll give you some cues. The people doing the testing, they don't want to see you fail. So they are going to help you with cues. But you still have to drag that mannequin appropriately. You can't let them down, and then just don't hit the pylons and don't fall, and you should be fine. You do have to do this in 57 seconds or less, though. So yeah, you need a little bit of pep in your step there, depending on how big of steps you're taking. But typically, you're taking smaller, just kind of shuffle steps. just
Yeah.
to keep your balance appropriately.
So when you say you have to be upright when you're coming past the last cone, like, like you're grabbing the person by the harness. Is the harness like on the sides of the mannequin? On the, like, where's the harness on the mannequin? Like,
So it like goes through its armpits. So
okay.
it's like you're right at like the top of his shoulder, like collarbone area.
Okay.
And so like, what I've found is like a lot of people will cross that finish line and then just like lay back or like crumple down and have the mannequin fall on them.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to prove that you're in control this entire time.
Gotcha.
So that's what I mean by like standing up straight.
Okay.
So that regardless of how fatigued you are, just stand up, make sure you're past the finish line, get the mannequin past the finish line, and then you just let the mannequin down slowly. And then don't go crashing to the ground because your legs are exhausted.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's more what I meant rather than being, you know, super straight and stern. But if you keep that in mind, you're more, the chances of you leaning backwards and falling backwards is smaller.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about being upright when you cross the finish line.
So. Yeah, totally. And I was gonna say that's got to be a massive quad burner. Like anytime you do anything backwards, like it's just like your quads are on fire. And so this is number 5, station number 5, right? So you've already done the treadmill where your legs are fucking dead. You've already done the tool carry, also not much legs, but still a little bit of legs. You've done your charged hose advance. So again, legs are dying because you've just fucking pulled something forward. So therefore front quads are dying again. And then you've done the sled pull, dear God. And then the forcible, oh my God. Okay. So basically at this point in time, you're just surviving in your bunker gear. And you're at this point, so to my listeners that understand the pair, this is lap 5. You've hit lap 5 and you've just blacked out. You actually don't know what you're doing. Your body is just going through the motions and you don't actually, your brain has vacated and you don't know what you're actually doing at this point in time.
And this is why training is so important, so that you can just go into muscle memory. Okay, we've been here before. Let's just keep going. And then you can just turn your brain off and you can just, hey, we only got one more after this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So as far as training goes, for tips for this, find yourself a mannequin if you can. Find yourself a friend who works in volunteer department, not a friend to drag unless you want.
I thought you were going to say, find yourself a friend that weighs exactly 183 pounds and be like, can you please lay down and let me drag you through these cones?
But if your friend is willing to do that, keep them around. That is one great friend.
That's a keeper. That's a keeper for life friend.
Yeah, that's what you want in your life. But yeah, so do that. Try and do as many drags as you can, as quick as you can, time yourself. Something else that I've kind of used in the past, and I know a couple friends have used, is those big tractor tires. We've used those for the forcible entry, but you can also use those as a victim rescue as well, and just pulling those back and forth. You're getting the same fatigue as far as the posterior side of your body goes and having to make those small steps and everything, without necessarily having to do or find a mannequin every time you want to train this. But train with a mannequin at least a couple times so you actually know what to expect, because it is a little bit different. The fundamental movement is the same, but as soon as you bring in the mannequin, it's a little bit different. The balance is off. He moves different, going around the pylons, like the legs swing, right? And if you don't let the legs swing enough, they're going to hit the pylon and then you're going to fail. So it's something to practice, and it's something to finesse as well.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's like the whole pylon thing. If for us, we do emergency vehicle operations, which I'm sure you guys do, like driving courses too with the fire truck stuff. But like if you hit the pylon, right, that's a person. And I'm like, oh my God, I hit a person. But like I love that like the mannequin also cannot hit a pylon. Like,
yeah. I mean, I have no idea what the pylon represents because it seems very catastrophic. but it's a thing. So yeah. They're not gonna like, they don't want you to fail in this one, so they are gonna try and help you around the serpentine. They're gonna kind of say, okay, look over your left shoulder so that you actually see the pylon, or like look over your right, or move right, move left. So you're not like, they don't want to see you fail this by hitting a pylon. So they are going to try and help you, but you still have to do the work. You still have to maneuver it around all the pylons and quickly. So as much as they're going to try and help you, it's all you. You still got to do it.
Yeah, of course.
And if you didn't think that your legs were already dead, you will now have 3 minutes to get yourself together, gather yourself, try and forget about how much your legs hurt before you reach the ladder. And so the ladder is your final one. Thank goodness. You need to climb 10 rungs, get both your feet on that 10th rung, and climb back down, get both your feet on the ground, and you have to do that 5 times. So up and down counts as 1 time. You need to do this in 97 seconds.
Oh my
God. Yeah. The ladder's angle is not super steep. So think like you're going to go up on your roof and you're just going to set up your ladder. So it's not a crazy like straight up and down. It's just our typical setting up a ladder like we would on the fire ground.
Okay.
As far as like, just to ease everybody's mental state here, you are on a harness for this. So if you like literally give it your absolute all and you I don't know, heaven forbid you pass out or you get wobbly or whatever, you're not going to fall off the ladder. So
that's good.
When you're doing this, that you can literally just give it everything you have left in the tank. And it might not be a lot, but it might just make it a little bit quicker to get past that 97 seconds. You are fatigued already because you just did your victim drag. You have all your gear still on. So climbing a ladder in those boots and that gear is going to be way harder than if you're just climbing a ladder in your runners and shorts. So train for that too. Like throw on the layers, find some bunker gear if you can, and practice that under fatigue. After you've already crushed your body in a workout or you've already tested all these other ones, then you go do your ladder climb. Because honestly, like practicing the ladder climb not under fatigue is not going to help you a lot. It's going to help you like figure it out if you want to do it the first couple times like that, just to figure out how you're going to appropriately climb the ladder and how you need to time it. But after that, get that gear on, get yourself fatigued, get your legs so that those rungs feel like they're so far apart, even though they're not.
Yeah. It's the boots, I think, would be the hardest part, because it's like you're used to your feet, like you're used to like, running up with your runners on and like, but like the boots alone, so like bigger, clunkier, your legs are already dead. Now you're trying to take a bigger boot and fit it into like the rung and lift it like that. That would be, and even the bunker pants too, right? Like again, picture running up a ladder in a fucking snowsuit. Like that's what you're doing, like a big puffy snowsuit. Like, that's crazy with your tank. So again, added weight. So that's the other part of it, right? It's not just you going up this ladder nice and quick with your cute little running shoes on. It is you with a what's the tank weighs like 30 pounds, about that or more?
Yeah, give or take. I believe they're using the steel tanks still. So it would be 30 to 40 pounds. Yeah. The ones that we actually use on Fireground is a little bit less now. But if they're still using the steel ones, then it's a considerable amount.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is so crazy. And like, I really do like the fact that there's the harness, because again, mentally for me, I'd be like, okay, so when I die, because it's happening right now. If I fall off this ladder, something's catching me. And then like you say, the like both feet on the ground and both feet on the top, because I feel like this is one again where you like similar to the forcible entry where technique can help you, right? Like you could work some quick feet, you could, work on an agility ladder, things like that. Like you could definitely get this, shave seconds off this. but you're still going to have to make sure that you have both feet, and you're not, like stutter stepping and going quick and trying to make it in that 97 seconds. You still got to make sure you've got those set things that they're looking for. So yeah, this test is crazy. Like again, so all you people that are bitching and complaining about the pair, shut the fuck up. Okay? Shut the fuck up, because
let's do this fire test.
I like, honestly, it's crazy. Like, and I said this like way, like I want to say one of our first episodes. I was doing actually a lifeguard course at Grand McEwen, and they had some of the fire stuff set up. And so we were like on a break, and they had the hose pull, but they had it up, like, so you had to pull it up like this. And my listeners can't see that, but like up into the air and around, like over the edge of a balcony. And I was like, oh, can I try it? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, fucking giving her. I was like, and he's like, oh, you did really good. Like, you should try for fire. And I was like, oh, that wasn't bad. Like, I mean, it was hard, but it wasn't bad. And he's like, this is the easiest one. And I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah. And then I saw a couple of the other ones, and I was like, okay. And I think part of this too is like you're saying, like, it's a long day. Like, this is like it's not like you're doing this and like you get a 3-minute break. Believe me, the 3-minute break is going to go by in a fucking flash by the time you get to the end. And you're doing these like, like, next one. Like, like, I could definitely see people passing out all over the place on these. I could see people just gassing out and just like, that's it. Like, they just hit the ground and they're done. Like, their body just can't do it anymore. I can see, like there's some serious training that would need to go into all of these things. Like, and definitely not like a roll in and like, I'm going to give this a shot and see how it goes today. Like, this is pretty heavy. This is pretty hardcore. So how did you feel like when you went through this? What was the toughest one for you? I don't think we broke that down, but like, what was the toughest one for you? What was the easiest one for you? And like, how did you feel at the end of it? Like, how did you feel as you were going through it and at the end of it?
Yeah. Okay. So I have done this test twice, just because I did it the first time to get on a different department. And then I did it the second time to get on with Lethbridge, because your report card is only valid for 6 months. So if you're past that 6 months, then you have to go and do it again. So the first time I did it, I was a little naive. I'm not going to lie. I knew that I was getting into like a tough physical, but I was going in it like, all right, like, I guess we'll see what happens. Like, I think I'm pretty fit. I think I can do this. I trained quite a bit. Keep in mind, national athlete. So my cardio is like
exceptional.
Yeah. It's above average. Like,
I'm like, I will brag for you. Your cardiovascular is fucking exceptional, is what it is. Yeah. The people, if you think your cardio is exceptional, it's not. Hers is. Okay. I don't give a fuck who's listening. Hers is better. I fucking guarantee it.
Yeah, we'll go for a swim together. We'll find out who's the last one standing here.
You'll be rescuing me off the bottom. That's
training for me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So anyways, my first time, I was a little naive, just going into like, essentially like, I don't know, let's see what this is about. I've been here before. I've done a little bit of training here and there. I generally knew what I was kind of doing, what I was getting into. So yeah, off I went. Honestly, both times the treadmill for me was the easiest. That's because of my cardio. Like, I'm also quite tall. I'm 5'10". I'm pretty much literally all legs. So my walking at 3.5 miles per hour is quite easy for me. I walk faster going shopping in the mall. So,
oh my God. And I'm like 3.5 is like a trot, like for me, because I'm 5 feet. So like 3.5, like I'm like little legs, like gotta get going.
And that's gonna make a huge difference. So yeah, that was the easiest on both of them, I would say. My first time going through, honestly, I found the first time was the sled pull for me was the hardest.
Okay.
It was just trying to figure out the proper technique in how to do this efficiently without like burning myself out by, squatting a little too low or pulling a little bit differently than I normally would. Like keep using those big muscles, but it's really easy to start using those small muscles. So I found that first time through, that was my challenge point. The second time through was kind of funny because it's like, I know that I can pass this mentally. Like I know, but like, oh, what if I don't? Like, it's like, okay, now I know what I'm getting myself into. Now I actually know how hard it is. I remember this, like this feeling is still there. It did not go. And so I found that the second time I almost like got myself a little more worked up. Treadmill went perfectly fine, the exact same way as it did the first time. There was no issues there. Go down to the floor, and I found like I just wasn't recovering as quickly. And a lot of that I'll attribute to the mind frame of it, of knowing what's next, of knowing the feeling of what's next. And for that one, it was the ladder climb that got me. It was the last one. I knew, like I had a general idea that like, hey, I've passed everything. They don't tell you. So you don't know. You have no idea what your time is. But I had a general idea based on the training that I've done and the last time that I was good. I just had to do this ladder climb. And my legs felt like cement.
Yeah.
They did not want to move. That like it just felt 10 times worse than the first time I did it. And like you can attribute that to a lot of things. Potentially there was just like a different nutrition switch. I might have trained a little bit differently. I might not have recovered enough. Big different changes that can happen there that you do need to be aware of. It's not just go up there and get this test done. Like there's the broad spectrum of being an athlete that you can bring those points into actually doing this test. So those are my hard points.
Yeah, I think too, like with the ladder, like that's mental. That's all mental. That is like you just gotta grind it out. Like you said, it's what 50, no, that one's 97 seconds. So a minute and a half. You just got to fucking put your head down and go for a minute and a half. And I think probably the first time you did it, you were like, I just got to fucking do this and get this done. And then I'm done this test and thank Jesus I'm done this test. Whereas the second time it might have been like, motherfucker, I'm still fucking doing this test. Like, when the fuck is this gonna end? Right? Like even those little mental switches, like it's totally true. Like, and it is the full spectrum, like you're saying, nutrition, sleep, hydration, like even being mildly dehydrated massively affects our performance. People, like I hear it all the time at parent and co-pat testing. My mouth is so dry. It feels like it's full of cotton. I'm like, how much water have you been drinking in the last like 3 days? Like nothing. And I'm like, well, this is why, because your body is so dehydrated. But like, you need to be drinking at least 3 liters of water a day leading up to your test so that your body is fully hydrated and it can pull that hydration when it needs it when you're putting your body to max exertion. Like those are simple things that you can do that don't even relate to your fitness. Sleep well, fuel your body properly, hydrate your body properly. Those 3 things alone, you will see a massive improvement in your physical ability to do anything, right? So yeah, I love that you're talking about that full kind of spectrum. What did you feel like as you were going through it? Like, were you just gradually like declining? Like, could you feel yourself just be like, and now I'm slower, and now my legs are heavier, and now fuck, why don't my arms work? Like, was it that, or was it just like, just fucking head down and grind it out?
Just like for that ladder, for the second time through for that ladder, I took my 3 minutes to talk myself off a cliff.
Yes. Okay.
Guys, so I'm pacing because they tell you, keep walking. So like I'm doing my pacing, but in my head, I'm like, okay, you can, like, you're still walking, which means you can still take more steps up a ladder. Like you can still do this. You've done it before. Like, let's not play this what if game, because those thoughts creep in your mind especially like I have a strong fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
And I attribute that, like, I love my fear of failure because I use that to get to where I'm at, but
Mm-hmm.
also it can be a little bit of a crutch. And so you have to mentally check that and
Yeah.
not allow that fear to actually overtake you and start stressing you out because your
Mm-hmm.
body's already stressed. So I use that 3 minutes to just like, hey, like that's not going to happen because like
Mm-hmm.
we're here, we've done it before, like you're a champ. And
Yeah.
so then it was like, hey, like 3, 2, 1, go. First 3 steps were the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
They felt huge. I felt very off balance and like nothing wanted to coordinate with each other.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you get past that burning point.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you have to like re-warm up. It
Yeah.
feels weird because I just had 3 minutes of like walking, but
Yeah.
it seemed like I like cooled down per se.
Yeah.
And that those 3 steps I needed to like re-warm up
Yeah.
and re-get my body to like, oh, we're doing this again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was like, okay, we're good. Like,
Yeah.
just keep moving. Don't stop. Make sure that both my feet are on those rungs. I believe at what there was one point where my feet either like weren't on the rung together, like the top rung,
Mm-hmm.
or I switched them too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just have to prove that they're both on there. And
Yeah.
so I think I switched them too fast and I started going down and he was like, whoa, like get back up there. You got to get your 2 feet. And so that obviously adds seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And in, you know, a time like that, you can't really risk that. So
Mm-hmm.
after that, it was like, okay, get my mind straight. Like, and now we got to hustle, but we got to hustle safely.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure both my feet are on the ground. He sees both my feet. Okay, now we can hustle up the ladder. Both my feet on the ladder. Hustle down.
Mm-hmm.
So you hustle in the middle and be controlled at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
I essentially like just black out mentally. Like
yeah. Yeah. You know, I love that you touched on this though, because this is what happens for a lot of people that run the Para and the Copat is they make one mistake, right? So exactly like that you didn't have both your feet where they were supposed to be. For us, it's usually they have a mat touch. There's a 5-foot mat jump and they'll have a mat touch, which is a 5-second penalty. And I have to call it out. Like I call it out like toe touch or heel touch. So they know that they've made the mistake, right? The difference between those people that pass and those people that fail inevitably is those people that can take that mistake and go, okay, I fucked it up. Okay, switch, mentally refocus. I'm not going to do it again, or I'm going to be real fucking focused when I come in next time to try not to do it again, right? Sometimes it's inevitable you're going to touch. And those people that like, you can see it, they shut down immediately. They've made a mistake and that's it. Now they're fucking derailed. They end up missing the next cone that they're supposed to go around. They stumble over the stairs that they're going around. They like, you can just see that they're off and then that's it. And if it happens on the first lap of 6, they're mentally fucked for the rest of the test, right? So that is part of it too. Like you have to accept you're not going to do it perfect. You're not like, and I get people, yeah, mostly men, right? That come in, they're going to nail this test. They're going to do it perfect. And then they fuck something up. And then they are just, you can see it just totally, like they are mind fucked about it. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to pull themselves out of it. They come in afterwards and we'll sit down and go through the evaluation sheet. And they're like, I can't believe I got all those penalties. Like what was going on? I'm like, cause this first one, I saw you, I could see it in your face, the change, right? So it's like that you have to be mentally tough. You have to be mentally switched on. You can't just, even though yes, your mind feels like you're not fucking paying attention because your body is just doing the things, you still have to have that mental focus of like, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I've got to do this. The other one that I see all the time is people already thinking ahead to the next obstacle. I actually had a girl that ran with me this just a couple of days ago, and you could see she was already thinking about the next thing, the next cone, the next set of stairs, the next hurdle before getting through what she was on currently. So then she was stumbling or she was missing the cones or she was like, so like, you just have to be laser focused in on exactly what you're doing at that moment and not worrying about what's to come and not worrying about what already happened. Like just be in that moment, be fucking focused on what your body is doing right then and right there. And that, I think, is what gets people through these in a more successful way than those that fail. I don't know. Do you think the same or no?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, part of our jobs, let's think about what job we're trying to get into, is being task focused. You have to be able to focus on the task at hand. You have to be able to get your body to do what it needs to do. And you have to be able to you have to know your surroundings. Obviously, we need situational awareness, but we can't let that dictate how our body is going to react in those situations. So you have to be able to focus on that task and focus on what you yourself can do to make that task easier for yourself or better, or you're not messing it up again, anything like that. Which, like, it's hard. It's a hard skill to have, but you don't just need it in the physical, you need it in your job. So practicing that too.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I want to jump into some like pieces of advice for people that are looking to get into the career, because you've shared a ton, like training tips and things like that as we've kind of gone through. But like, what if people are looking to get into this, not necessarily related to the physical, but like we are looking, people are coming out of high school right now, grads just going on. What should people be doing to help themselves prepare to apply for these? Is there courses they can take? Is there things that they can start to work on, physically, mentally for themselves to get ready for this? Any words of advice on that?
For sure. So if you're not positive on if you want to join this career, we have tons of ride-along opportunities. So take advantage of that. You can send us an email or send a department close to you an email, and they should have ride-alongs available too. I can really only speak with Lethbridge, so Lethbridge has ride-alongs. Reach out to us and we can take you along, and you can decide if this might be something for you before you start to go down the rabbit hole of like all the courses and everything that you need to take prior to. If you have decided this is 100% for you and you're amped, you're ready to go, you will need your minimum primary care paramedic. And so that is a course. It's ran through lots of different places right now, but Calgary specifically, we've got PMA, we have SAIT, we have the Lethbridge College down here, we have Medicine Hat. I'm sure I'm missing some. I think there's one in Fort McMurray. There's lots of courses that you can get your primary care paramedic. So at minimum, you need that. If you want an even better shot and you want a higher scope of care, then you need your advanced care paramedic. And so you can actually, if you're fresh out of high school, you've decided this is exactly what you want to do, you can go to Medicine Hat and do their full program where you go, we call it 0 to hero program.
Yep.
So you're fresh out of high school, they get you through your your EMR, and then they get you through your primary care paramedic, and then you move on to your advanced care paramedic, and you essentially graduate as an advanced care paramedic. If you can do it like a million different ways, to be honest, through different programs, but they're the one that kind of does the whole, from 0 to hero. All the other ones, you kind of have to do your primary care paramedic and then apply for your advanced care paramedic at a different location. So it's kind of like whatever works for you. A lot of the advanced care paramedic stuff can be distance. So you can do it where you're online for I believe it's 3 weeks you're online, and then you go up, because most of the programs are up north, go up there for a 1 week of labs. And so that's super nice after you've gotten your primary care paramedic to be working casually somewhere and then doing your advanced care.
My friend Sheila, she was in our first season. She was one of our first episodes, and she had just finished her advanced care paramedic, and she'd been a primary care for years, and that was exactly it. I think she'd been 10 years primary care. And then she was like, I think I'm going to do this. And so that's exactly, she did the like, okay, I'm jumping into it. And she also called it the zero to hero. And I fucking laughed my ass off when she said that too. I was like, that's glorious. But she said same things, same as you. There's benefits and there's disadvantages to both, right? Like benefit, you're getting it all done in one shot and you're coming out and you're ready. Disadvantage that you have no life experience. You have no real, like, you haven't been on the truck. You have no idea what you're facing. You have all this schooling, but you got no real experience. And she's like, whereas for me, I had a ton of experience. So a lot of the learning was easier in that, like I already kind of I knew what it would actually look like when I was dealing with it. She's like, but also you're going back to school as an older adult. So you forgot how to study, you forgot how to, like retain things, right? And she was working like almost full time at the same time. So full time working, trying to do this at school, you got to pay for it. It's expensive, right? So definitely, yeah, benefits and disadvantages. But yeah, if anybody is interested in that, for sure check out that episode with Sheila Farrell because she breaks it all down too. So yeah. So perfect. I like that. So primary and or advanced care paramedic, you want to definitely get those sorted out with that medical knowledge to apply. Okay, love it. What else do we need to do?
So that's your minimum certifications. Mm-hmm. Anything on top of that is extra. We love it. So anything fire related. So if you have your 1001 level 1, 1001 level 2, any of those kind of courses, that's great. We love to see that. Any kind of volunteer experience, especially like volunteer firefighting, that's wonderful. And yeah, obviously, as you've touched on, some life experience. We want to see that you've been kind of out and about, you've done the things. If you're applying as a primary care paramedic, you will need extra experience. It's tough to hire a brand new primary care paramedic. Not to say like it'll never happen, but get some experience under your belt. I think it'll help you anyways in the long run to get that experience. Other than that, like we're looking for people who are willing to just be hard workers.
Yes.
That want to come, they want to come to work, they want to help people, they want to put their all into their job, and they want to enjoy their job. So honestly, like if that sounds like you, then come on over.
I love it. Yeah. So how are they applying? Is it an online application? Like they can just head, and if there's a website, we'll be throwing it in the show notes, but they can just head to the website, click apply now, and then load it all in there.
Yeah. So we have one open right now, actually. So if anybody is ready to throw in their resume, you don't have to, for those ACP students right now, if you're in your intermediate prac or you're going to be into your final, you can still apply. So if you're in school right now, apply. We try and figure that out as we go. So you don't have to wait until you're completely done your advanced care paramedic. You can apply if you're like second year school, which is awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah. So there's an online application that you'll fill out. I believe even if you go to firerecruitment.ca, we actually have it on there. They have everything for like almost all of Canada that's open right now for hiring. So that's an awesome website if you're looking everywhere else as well. To apply, you will need your physical, as we were talking about. So before you even put in your resume, go get that pass done. Get that pass, send it in with your resume. I believe there's a cover sheet that they'll want you to print out, and you'll just fill out. It just gives us an idea of like how much experience you have, whether you're a PCP, whether you're an ACP, if you have fire, if you don't have fire. It just it's a very broad cover sheet, but it just gives us an idea. We have a lot of people who are applying and they have like literally no certifications. And unfortunately, we're not a service that will take no certifications.
Right.
So that will kind of weed out those people. And then we can have the ones that have their PCP, their ACP, and some fire certifications to be part of our hiring process.
Yeah. Okay. And then what about interview? What's the interview process like? What does that look like? Is there tips for the interview?
Yeah. So follow your star format. I think that's a very typical, lovely thing, but it says a lot about you if you can follow your star format. If you can be very organized in your answers, and you can literally say the situation was and the task was and blah blah blah, all of that fun stuff if you want to, or you can just tell the whole story. Be prepared for 10 to 15-ish questions, give or take. If you look up the star format and look up those interviews, like they ask the same thing in general. So like leadership, communication, honesty, integrity, ethics. Down here, we deal with a lot of like diverse populations. So dealing with some patient advocacy, dealing with those populations. If you have, what have your experiences been? Anything as far as an issue with a supervisor or an issue with a senior member, anything like that, we'll be asking about for sure. So keep those stories in mind and start developing them now. Like start thinking ahead of time, where you're in your real life right now and you're dealing with some real life situations. Hey, this could be a great story for my interview. Let me write it down. And then I can practice it. Because sitting down a week before your interview, trying to think of all these stories for like, oh my goodness, if they ask me this, what am I going to say, is 10 times harder than you writing things down as they happen. Because you're going to remember them more. And you don't have to sit there the week before panicking because you can't figure out what you're going to say in this interview.
Yeah, I that's a piece of advice I give in our interview prep sessions is make a note on your phone, do a voice note to yourself on day at this place where I was working here. I was dealing with this. There's this conflict with this coworker. There was this conflict with this supervisor. There was this, accountability issue that came up. There was this, integrity or ethical decision I had to make here. Like if you have that stuff jotted down, and again, same thing, the piece of advice I always give, be super specific. We're looking for, again, recruiters are looking for not necessarily not just star format, but within that star format, who, what, where, when, why, how, what happened. We want to know where you were working, want to know what you were doing, what was your role, what was the name of the company. We want to know, when was this? Not just, oh, I was working here. When? A year ago, 6 months ago, 6 days ago? When did this happen? Where were you? In Edmonton? Were you in Lethbridge? Like where in the building were you when this was happening, right? Like you have to get that specific, because if you don't, we can't create like a story in our head for the situation, and then the specifics aren't there. You're not selling us on the answer, and you get, we kind of gloss over you and we're like, okay, well, that was a shit answer. We move on to the next candidate, right? So being super specific in those answers, exactly like you said, going through, conflict is going to come up all the time. Communication is going to come up all the time. Ethics and values are going to come up all of the time. Like for no matter what first responder career you're in, those are the top 3. Are you fucking ethical? Are you honest? Are you going to do this for the right reasons? Can you fucking talk to people? Because holy shit, if you can't talk to people, this ain't the fucking job for you. And can you deal with conflict? Because also, guess what? If you can't deal with conflict, this career is not for you. Any of these fucking careers are not for you. Because at any point in time, you are going to be dealing with conflict. You're going to be dealing with conflict with the people that you're trying to fucking help, like all of the time. You're going to be dealing with conflict with your coworkers. You're not going to want to do something with that one person, or you're going to think that you need to do it this way and they're going to think they need to do it that way. You're going to have to deal with a supervisor that you may not like, that you may not respect, but you're going to have to fucking work with them. So yes, all of those questions, absolutely. I'm glad to hear it is very similar, because I figured it would be, but it's nice to hear that it's pretty similar. Yeah. And is there a background check for you guys as well, or no?
We not necessarily. So we do a psych evaluation in our exams. So part of that day with our interviews, we have written exams.
Okay.
I touched on this before, but we have the medical test, and then we have a fire aptitude test, and then we have a psych evaluation test. And so that psych evaluation, there's 2 of them. It's like a personality test, and it's something else. I can't remember off the top of my head, but anyways, they get sent to our psychologist, and then our psychologist goes over those, and then we have an interview with the psychologist. So it's not necessarily a background check, but like the dirt comes out.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if something's off, they figure it out.
Yeah.
Our psychologist is amazing at his job, so he knows pretty much right away, I would say, if there's kind of something off. So we don't necessarily do background checks, but we will see that. We check your driver's abstract, obviously, and we do reference checks and all of that fun stuff as well.
Yeah.
But, yeah, not as in depth as far as like the police side goes for background checks, but enough that we can skew out the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. Okay, cool. Well, I feel like you've wrapped all of that recruiting stuff up in like a beautiful package for us, from like what the application process looks like, through the entire physical fitness test, through those like, again, psych and the written tests and things like that. So yeah, I like I said, I think, anybody that's interested, that wants to get started in this first responder career, and not only one first responder career, but two, really, because you're dual, you're doing the paramedic and you're doing firefighting. Lethbridge Fire and Emergency Services is hiring people, so jump on it. And Lethbridge, from what I've heard, is quite a nice place to live. I just saw Molly and Allie this weekend, and they were telling me how beautiful it was, how nice it was. I think you've done a great job in just kind of wrapping it up for us. Is there any kind of last things that you'd like to add for recruiting or anything like that?
Do your research, go do your ride-alongs, decide what you want to do, and follow through with it. Like you were just saying, how it's such a small community and we're such a group. I love to make note that we have 200 firefighters. I know every single one of them. I can look at them and I can tell you what their name is. That's how close of a group we are.
That's wicked. That is so cool. Yeah. That's amazing, because when I was the boss of the reman, I had 150 people on my shift, just on my shift, just on a B shift. And honest to God, I would have to say, like, I knew like 95% of them, but there was still a couple that I was like, what is your name? Let me look at your last name on your vest. Oh, it's so-and-so. And that's me as the boss. So yeah, and for sure, like at the jail, because it is very sectioned off, like I would say like stations, but we call them pods. But if you work pod 5, you would almost never see who was working on pod 3 and 4, because they were on the other end of the jail, right? And you just go to your pod, you work your unit, you go for lunch. If that person on pod 4 doesn't have the same lunch as you, then you don't see them. Like, out of those groups, like you could not see anybody except for your pod for the whole entire set of six days, 6 shifts, except at muster at the beginning, right? So I think that's super cool. And 200 firefighters, like that's a lot. That's a pretty big like platoon or like big group. Out of the 200, how many are females?
We have 7. We've had 8 in the past.
Okay.
We've had a total of 8 women on our fire service. Currently, we have 7 on our fire service.
So we want more women, listeners. Yes. If you're listening and you're a woman and you think you got what it takes, let's fucking go. Let's go. And I will say, as a quick plug to Blue Line, I am looking at kicking off a female fit to fight fire sessions, workshops, courses, something like that. I've got about 8 million ideas. I'll probably, see if I can bring Dallas up and she can kick our asses. And we're not swimming though. Fuck you. I'm not swimming.
It's no longer part of the test. So we're good. Back in the day though, they actually had to do the swim test.
They used to have to do the swim test for RCMP too. I know. Yeah, it's gone. Thank God. Thank God that's gone. But yeah, we are looking if we break it down into like a weekend where we break all the workshops down, if we do it like weekly where we do like a workshop or like an obstacle a week, something like that, we're looking into doing that. So stay tuned if you are interested and you're in the Edmonton area. We're going to be doing something. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to help you ladies get in there and get this fucking job, because we need more of us here. All right, girl, it's been a slice. Have an amazing rest of your day.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you again. This was so much fun.
Well, that's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in, listening, giving me your time, your energy, and your attention. I completely appreciate it. Make sure you check out our next episode with another badass female first responder anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at bluelinefitnesstesting.com. I hope you stay safe, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your six.